In this video we will take a look at the slide of large intestine. The slide is stained with modified green trichrome. That means collagen fibers are green, elastic fibers are black, and muscle tissue is red. The wall of the colon has the same basic layer as the small intestine, but the colon does not have villi or plicae circulares, and the luminal surface of the mucosa is smooth. But in an undistended colon, the mucosa and the submucosa exhibits temporary folds. It's visible here. The mucosa consists of simple columnar epithelium, intestine glands, lamina propria, and muscularis mucosa. The simple columnar epithelium contains the absorptive columnar cells, it's visible here, and mucus-filled goblet cells. This is very pale cells here. This is the goblet cells, which is filled with the mucus. The number of goblet cell increases in toward the terminal end of the colon. The intestine glands, also called crypts of Lieberkrein, are deep glands, straight and extend through the lamina propria to the muscularis mucosa. This is the longitudinal section of the intestinal glands. This is the tubular structure, but also it's visible in cross section. And, for example, here this is the cross section of the intestinal glands, or Lieberkrein grapes, and this looks like a flower. So this is the same structure. It's here. This is the longitudinal section, and this is the transverse section of intestinal glands. The lamina propria and submucosa are filled with the aggregation of lymphatic cells and lymphatic nodules. For example, here you can see the lymphatic follicle, and in lamina propria, and here it continues in submucosa, go through the lamina muscularis mucosa. Submucosa also contains connective tissue cells and fibers, and various blood vessels, also in lymphatic vessels here, and submucosal nerve plexus, also called Meissneri. For example, here it's nerve fibers also here. So this is mucosa and submucosa, and we will continue with the smooth muscle layer in muscularis externa of the colon. These lamina are different from those of the small intestine. The inner circular muscle layer is continuous and surround the colon wall whereas the outer muscle layer is condensed into three strips, longitudinal bands, which is called Taeniae coli. For example, here you can see one condensation of the longitudinal muscle layer, and also here, and probably here, but it's not visible. And very thin outer longitudinal muscle layer, which is often discontinuous, is found between the Taeniae coli. Yes, this is a very thin layer of longitudinal muscle layer. The parasympathetic ganglion cells of mesenteric Auerbach nerve plexus are found between the two smooth muscle layer. Here you can see mesenteric nerve plexus. So the serosa, visceral perineurium, and mesentery covers the transverse colon and the sigmoid colon. The serosa is visible here. This is loose connective tissue layer, which is lined with one layer of squamous mesothelial cells. And for example, here it's also serosa, but also it's visible mesentery. This is only loose connective tissue. Without mesothelium. So that's all. The wall of the large intestine contains of mucosa, which is contains one layer of columnar absorptive cells and goblet cells. In lamina propria, you can see intestinal glands or Liebig-Green script, and the last layer of mucosa is the lamina muscularis mucosa. Beneath the mucosa is the submucosa. This is loose connective tissue with the blood vessels, adipose cells, and nerve plexus, submucosus. And another layer is smooth muscle layers. Inner is circular layer, continuous layer, and the longitudinal layer of form the Taeniae coli. This is big bands called Taeniae coli, and between the circular and longitudinal layer you can observe parasympathetic ganglion cells of mesenteric nerve plexus, and the outer layer is a serosa or adventitia. So thank you very much.